I'm going to be reading an opinion piece from spikedonline.com, and it's called The Hostile Male Takeover of Women's Sports. And you know what? I couldn't agree more. Anyway, no sport, it seems, is safe from trans ideology. Darts has become the latest to be rocked by a trans related controversy. At the weekend, biological male Noah Lynn Van Leeuwen, God, became the first transgender player to book a spot at the PDC World Darts Championship, which will take place later this year. In doing so, Leuven will take one of just two places that are reserved at the championships for women. The 28-year-old Dutch player who began transitioning in 2021 won against current ladies champion uh, Beau Greaves. It's not really surprising that Van Leuven was able to secure the win. Sex differences might matter much less in darts than, say, boxing or athletics, but any athlete or sportsman who has gone through male puberty still has a significant advantage when it comes to strength, power, and arm length. Many female dart players are understandably upset and outraged at the prospect of having to face off against Van Leuven. English darts player Detta Hedman has twice refused to play trans opponents, one of them being Van Leuven himself. Back in May this year, Hedman pulled out of a match against Van Leuven, saying that she wouldn't play a man in a ladies' event. Outrageously, in response to these controversies, the World Darts Federation has threatened disciplinary action against any player who backs out of a match. It is punishing women for standing up for fairness. The concerns of these women also seem to be of little concern to Van Leven. To put it mildly, speaking to Dutch outlet uh, uh, NU this week, he lashed out at the conservative toxic bitches who are criticising him for competing in women's events. He also seems to be under the impression that the fact that he is a man has nothing to do with his sporting success. I throw well now because I feel more comfortable, he told NU. Well, new, I think that's what it's called. It's a matter of putting money and hours into it. Not many women do that, but I do. And so these dreadful bitches who don't want to compete against him are lazy as well as toxic and conservative, it seems. Elsewhere in the world of sport, the England and Wales Cricket Board announced last week that trans players will be banned from professional and semi professional cricket games in England. On the face of it, this is good news. Prior to this, the ECB has some of the laxest rules of any sport. Anyone who identified as a female was allowed to play in the women's category subject to the board's approval, but bafflingly, recreational and cricket teams are exempt from these new rules. This is despite the fact that, as Oliver Brown has pointed out in the Telegraph, the lower levels of the game is where sex differences are arguably most stark. It is also in these club level games that many children and teens compete. Last year, parents of 12-year-old girls were horrified to discover that a middle aged trans identified man was being allowed to compete against girls in the same league. The dangers of having a grown man lob harder leather balls at young girls should be obvious to anyone with half a brain, not to mention that these girls might in some cases be expected to share the same changing rooms or toilets as males who think that they are female. Cricket and darts may be two very different sports, but the views of both the ECB and the World Darts Federation are essentially the same. That men's feelings count for more than preserving women's sports and safety. The hostile male takeover of women's sport has got to stop. Yeah, 100% agree. This is just absolutely disgusting. And the fact that this fucking asshole fucking says, "Oh, these dreadful bitches." You know what? Fuck you. Fuck you for saying that. The only reason you went into the women's division of darts is because the thing is when you identified yourself as a male, I bet you were a shit player, but you was a shit darts player, and you thought, you know what, I'll most likely do better if I identify myself as a trans, because the thing is, I think this happened in the in the U.S. swimming, I think, and the the guy did shit as a when he was a identified himself as a male swimmer, and then when he identified himself as a trans and he competed in the women's swimming, he did a lot better, and it's like, yeah, no fucking shit, you're gonna do a lot better. And yeah, they're just getting all these sports are just getting infiltrated, and it's just going to get to a point where I'm going to sound really stupid for saying this, but I can honestly see this happening, where less and less and less women are going to end up wanting to compete because because of this shit, because of this nonsense, because of this because yeah, because of this nonsense, and the fact that I think it said the part where it's talking about the cricket, where you're gonna allow you're even allowing you're even allowing a man. I don't give a shit if he calls himself a woman to compete against children. What the fuck is that about? How the hell? What the hell are the other children going to do against him? That's just beyond stupid. You're not. These are not grown ups. These are to me. These are children in male in adult bodies, and they're making decisions like this. It's absolutely pathetic. The world of sport is the world of sport in general is becoming a joke. That's what it's becoming. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.